Jambo Africa. Hello, Africa. This is Chajga Tapiwa Diamond. This is Inside Africa, where we speak about the political, social, and economic issues affecting Africa. Today, we are traveling to Southern Africa, to the country of Zambia, where we are going to unpack some of the issues which are affecting the country politically, socially, and economically. So we have complained over and over again over issues that have to do with colonization, over issues that have to do with the siphoning out of the mineral resources in Africa. The question has been, why is it that the former colonial master is still in Africa, yet we have attained our own independence? What are the current governments doing in order to make sure that we have economic freedom for Africans, so that the resources, the natural resources, the mineral resources that we have in Africa will benefit us as Africans? So the questions that we've always asked is, are our governments doing something towards it? Or they are simply assisting the former colonial masters to siphon out the mineral resources? Issues from my own perspective that are there to be spoken about is issues to do with, as an example, the colonial things which are still in existence to date. It can be the names of some towns, the names of the roads that we have. Some of those things must be changed. The reason why they should be changed is because when we speak about the transformation and when we speak about getting our power back, it starts with some of the simplest things. Because we speak of the colonization of the mind and also saying that we need to change. We can't be expected to change on the bigger things, whereas we are not able to change some of the small things that we have in Africa. The former colonial master came, he has left a footprint. We have not been able to transform and change that footprint. In as much as we say we need to deal with colonization, but there are things that the former colonial master has left that we have simply said, hallelujah, we'll keep on living on whatever they have left. As an example, in 1963, at the formation of the Organization of African Unity, the idea was to have a united Africa. What happened to that pipe dream? If we say we are against the Berlin Conference, if as Africans we say it was wrong for them to scramble for Africa, divided with a ruler as they pleased, that is the former colonial master, and our presidents, they came into power. They have not been able to eradicate the borders which were set by the former colonial master. What does it say about Africa? It then means that we are not ready to have key critical debates. It then means that whatever the former colonial master has left in place, we are happy with it. But you know what? As discussed before, there are more Sotho-speaking people in South Africa as compared to Lesotho. Why? It is because of the border which was drawn by the former colonial master, cutting right through the bedroom, your kitchen. If you're sitting on the other side of the kitchen and the other person is in the bedroom, now you're into different colonies. So those things have not been changed. But the leaders, when they came into power, they forgot about it. Why? Because they enjoyed being in power. They're enjoying being presidents, being chauffeur-driven, the benefits that come with those positions. And as a result, us expecting and anticipating proper change, oh my God, it's going to take quite a very long time, because there is a lot that we need to transform from. Issues to do with mineral resources that we have spoken about each and every single day. The Commonwealth, it is an organization where the former colonies of Britain sit together with their leader in Britain and they discuss issues to do with trade. We can't even trade amongst ourselves as the former colonies of Britain, as an example. We need the assistance of Britain for us to be able to trade amongst ourselves. But we are Africans. We have all the resources that we need. Why then should we be part and parcel of such movements and organizations? They are not too transformational. The prices of the raw materials that we have in Africa is determined by someone else who is sitting outside of Africa. Those who are determining the prices, they do not even have those raw materials. The price, as an example, for cocoa, for gold, iron ore, copper, all those prices are decided by some people sitting elsewhere outside of Africa. And us as Africans, the ones with those raw materials, we don't sit on the table. We don't even discuss. We don't have a say. We don't have a voice. The same applies to the United Nations Security Council. We don't have a voice, only in the General Assembly. Coming back home to the issues of the siphoning out of the mineral resources, we're going to focus on Zambia, a country, landlocked country in the southern African region. Where does Zambia sit in terms of the production of copper? The precious commodity, the precious raw material. I also would like to salute my fellow African, Joseph Kalimbwe from Zambia. He has been ventilating these issues that have to do with the siphoning out of mineral resources from Zambia. So it's high time we echo on the same sentiments of Joseph Kalimbwe and many other progressive African leaders who have been speaking about the transformation of Africa and making sure that there's beneficiation as far as raw materials in Africa are concerned. So Zambia, as it stands, it is number 2, the second country in Africa in terms of the production of copper. When we speak of Zambia, we speak of Chipolopolo, the copper bullet, the northern parts of Zambia, the raw materials that we have here in Africa. What is happening to those raw materials? They're being siphoned out of Africa. Things did not only start and finish with the scramble for Africa. And we all know why there was a scramble for Africa in the beginning or in the first place. The richest person in terms of history, the richest person to ever exist was Mansa Musa, an African by origin, from Timbuktu region in Mali. As he was going to pilgrimage in the Middle East, as he moved through Egypt, he was giving out golds and diamonds to people. He caused an inflation in Egypt that caused economic instability in Egypt. There was inflation in Egypt for almost at least 13 years. That's how rich Mansa Musa was. He would move with a chariot of horses with more than 50 servants, carrying gold and silver and other precious mineral resources, and he was dishing them out as he was traveling to and from pilgrimage in the Middle East. That then attracted, he became the center, the focal point, because people then said, people in the East, people in the West, people in the North, they then said, who is this guy who is dishing out mineral resources? The precious stones, he has them. Where is he coming from? They then tracked and traced him, found him in Africa. So that was in the 14th century, about 1800s, thereabout. So if you do the math, because Mansa Musa, according to historians, he must have passed on plus minus 1330, 1337, 1340, thereabout. And then from 13th, that's the 14th century, 14th, 15th century, 16, 17, up until the year 1800. That was when there was the scramble for Africa and the colonization for Africa. So what does it mean? It means that the former colonial masters or the colonial masters, they took their time investigating issues to do with Africa. They investigated how we behave as Africans. They understood we are very religious. When they understood that we are religious, they then brought religion into Africa, altered how we lived in Africa for them to be able to siphon out mineral resources. Zambia was not spared. Each and every single inch of Africa was invaded. So back to the issue of Zambia. Zambia is currently the second copper producing country in Africa. And they've reached serious milestones in the country. And we know that in the first quarter of 2025, they had already gone about 30, close to 40% in terms of their folds, in terms of production. They were producing previously about 174,000 metric tons, that was in 2024, of copper. And then by the first quarter of 2025, they were producing 224,000 metric tons. So that's a serious improvement from what they were doing previously. But is that benefiting people in Zambia? Who is benefiting in Zambia? Because we know that the copper that is in Zambia, it is responsible for at least 15, 16, 17% of their GDP. And we know that we have your Barrick Lumwana and First Quantum mines. They're investing as well in the country. They've invested about 10 billion in copper in Zambia. And the question is that benefiting Zambia as a country? Currently, as it stands, based on information released last year, the ideal situation for Zambia currently is to say we need to have at least 1 million metric tons of copper. That is now the strategy from the government. So the government is saying, look, we are having a national strategy, and this strategy is to have at least 3 million metric tons of copper in terms of production, because they have already attained the 1 million production. So a jump from 1 million to 3 million metric tons, it's a serious difference. And that strategy from the Zambian government is going to enhance, they'll have something else that is going to enhance in terms of the geological mapping. They've put in some funds, investors have been called in for that. And they say part of it as well will include the formalization of your artisans. The artisan miners, they want to cater for them because they're also involved in the production of copper in Zambia. And at the end of the day, for the government of Zambia to attract investors, they are going to create a stable fiscal regime. Because once you have a stable fiscal regime, it then means that you are able to then attract the investors in the country for your foreign direct investment. But is there free lunch in Africa? Those are the questions that we always ask ourselves. There is absolutely no free lunch in Africa. We have spoken about the pipe dream from the former colonial masters, Cape to Cairo, connecting Africa through rail. But the question is, the railway line that we want to have, which was the birthchild of Cecil John Rhodes, connecting Africa by road or by rail from Cape to Cairo, was it for Africa to connect within itself? Was it for the people within and inside of Africa? For free movement of people? Definitely not. The pipeline dream of Cape to Cairo, by rail or by road, was so that there will be a free movement of mineral resources, not people. It was for the mineral resources to move from all parts of Africa so that the former colonial masters can get those mineral resources outside of Africa. Currently, the Chinese have gone into Zambia, Tanzania. What have they done? They now have the Tazara railway line. the same as the Cape to Cairo. What is so significant about the Tazara railway line? It is the same as the Lobito corridor. What essentially the Tazara railway line is doing is simply to move the mineral resources outside of Africa. It is connecting the external forces, the external stakeholders, which is the former colonial master, is getting access into Africa, and they're easing out in terms of siphoning out the mineral resources in Africa. So Tazara railway line, the Lobito corridor are responsible for siphoning out these mineral resources. It is not only issues in Zambia. We were speaking about the same issues a year ago as far as South Africa is concerned. When we speak about issues to do with copper, the copper that is in South Africa is being siphoned out. Richards Bay, there's too many trucks that side. Some trucks are going through Mozambique. That is how they are siphoning out mineral resources. Each and every single country, before they developed themselves, they required and needed copper as a base mineral for them to have sustainable electricity. And the Western world is going back to copper, but they've come into Africa. And guess what are they telling us as Africans? They're telling us, go green. They invest in green, go green. But when they are mentioning go green, at the end of the sentence, they have truckloads of copper, truckloads of coal, which is leaving Africa. They use coal for the production of electricity. So this is not a new phenomenon for Zambia. It is an African phenomenon that we need to speak about, that we need to expose, and hopefully the youth of the day are going to transform and change it. The louder we speak about these things, that's the more we build awareness amongst our communities. And at some point, people are going to change and there could be some transformation. We could have these mineral resources benefiting us as Africa. So in Zambia, as far as copper is concerned, there are very few companies which are benefiting from this. You have your Barrick Lumana, you have your First Quantum Minerals, you have, which in terms of location, in terms of ownership, First Quantum Minerals in Zambia belongs to people from Canada. It has got Canadian ownership. Barrick Lumana, Canadian ownership. Glencore Mopani, Swiss ownership. Vedanta Konkola, London/Indian ownership. What does it say at the end of the day? All the mineral resources in Africa, they are not benefiting Africa. They are benefiting the former colonial master. If you go back into history, a couple of years ago, something very sad happened in Zambia. The Zambian government sold copper mines. Bishop Tudor Bismarck was very loud on this matter. But where were the African leaders? The African leaders never spoke about it. They ignored it. The Zambian government, it sold its copper mines because it was not able to service them and to produce copper. They sold their copper mines for $25 million. And guess what? Those who bought these copper mines, these are foreign stakeholders, part of the former colonial masters. When they bought those copper mines in Zambia, within 3 months, they had made more than $75 million. In terms of profit, we're talking about profit within 3 months. The government sells copper mines for $25 million. Those who've bought those mines, they've made profit, $75 million within 3 months. And at that point, they were not even paying the government of Zambia anything. They then paid off that $25 million because it was small change for them. And as time went on, they started paying the government of Zambia 0.006%. back to the government, which is zero, which is nothing. And the phenomenon is still continuation today. Outside of those copper mines, there's no beneficiation of the community. There's no proceeds whatsoever. The roads are not fixed. The people around those mines have been displaced, or those who are staying within the peripheries of those mines. There's no infrastructure. Those people are not benefiting. There's no roads. There's no schools. There's no infrastructure that is built by those who have taken over those copper mines. They only just about make a road enough for them to access those mineral resources. After that, they don't care. As it stands in Zambia, they've been constructing airstrips, private airstrips, for the Canadian people, for the Swiss people, for the Indian people, London, British people, to access the copper mines. They don't want to travel long distances. They have enough money and resources because the roads are so bad, and they're not interested in fixing the roads. Just the basic bare minimum. Theirs is simply to say, we siphon out mineral resources, and that's it. They're now using their own private jets, getting in and getting out of Zambia, siphoning out the mineral resources. And Zambia is not benefiting. As it stands in those communities where those mines are operating from, buses are getting stuck, trucks are getting stuck, people are getting stuck. The moment it rains, people can't go from point A to point B because there's no road system, there's no road network. And that is sad for Africa. Probably one of the issues that we have as Africans is that we close factories and we build churches. And prayer is not in the equation of success. You don't succeed by prayer. Decision making is in the equation of success. Prayer is only in the revelation level. For things to be revealed to you, you can pray all day long. That's revelation level. For you to go on the success equation, it is decision making. Bishop Tudor Bismarck was very clear in this. And that is the issue with us as Africans. We take over a factory, we close a factory, and we build a church, and we start praying for jobs. The decision making is skewed. We don't get miracle jobs. Logic will simply tell you, go and get the factory, work hard, form a cooperative, create jobs, and sustain yourselves. But us as Africans, we believe so much in prayer. Someone said, when they bring this religion, they took away our identity, gave us a new identity, gave us a new religion, and they told us to close our eyes holding the Bibles. By the time we said amen, they'd taken over the land and we were kicked out of our land. At the moment we tried to retaliate, they said, thou shalt not retaliate. In the very same book, there is someone who sinned right in the beginning, and when she sinned by eating the fruit, she was never forgiven. Yet, further down the line, different chapters, a couple of verses down the road, it says that you should forgive. How many times? You know the answer. So, that is the sad story about Africa. And the mineral resources, they keep on getting siphoned out of Africa. And we as Africans are not benefiting from it. About 7-8 days ago, to make things worse for Zambia, copper mines, which are siphoning out the mineral resources, they received good news. The London Stock Exchange gave us the new figures that, hey, the price of copper has gone up. It rose to about $13,000. per ton to 13,000 US dollars per ton. And all the trucks which are leaving Zambia day in, day out, they were previously making about $400,000 per truck. Every truck that you see, be it in Zambia, getting into Zimbabwe, getting into South Africa, all those trucks that you see, at the time it's not even one truck. You'd see 3 trucks, 4 trucks with copper. When you look at those trucks, it appears as if there's nothing they're carrying. There's a few little things like that looks like metal, that's copper. When you see 4 or 5 trucks traveling together, in most instances, they are carrying copper. And each and every single truck was previously earning or worth about 400,000 US dollars. And what are those copper mining companies paying back to Zambia? Zero. They are paying nothing. They are only paying about $43 for something which is to the value of 500,000. Let that sink, Africa. For every truckload that leaves Zambia, the Zambian government only gets $43. What is the value of the truck? The value of the truck at this point is 500,000 US dollars, $500,000, and they only pay 43 US dollars. They are paying this for what? For the tolls. They are paying for the Mutanda toll gate. They are paying it for the Senenga toll gate, all their way to Sesheke. That's all. That's also besides the royalties that they pay, the royalty and taxes, which is a fraction, which is nothing. So Joseph Kalimbwe, who has become a target of these miners and the big wigs in the mining industry, he has advocated for Zambia for at least to say for each and every single truck that leaves Zambia, they should pay a minimum of 5,000 US dollars. Previously, before the London Stock Exchange had a tariff increase for the price of copper to 13,000 per ton, they were earning about, or probably the value of each and every single truck was about 400,000. So now with the new tariff increase, the figures now are pushed from 400,000 to $500,000, not rands, dollars. That is worth each, that is the value for each and every single truck that is leaving Zambia. And they're only paying $43 plus the taxes and royalties. That is nothing. That is a fraction in comparison to what is leaving our African continent to what we are getting back. That is the sad story of Africa. Joseph Kalimbwe have been ventilating on these issues, but the Zambian government is not interested. The Zambian government has taken probably plus minus 13, 14 years or so to build one of their roads there. The road network system in Zambia is bad, it's dilapidated. The Sesheke Road, all the way to Livingstone, is bad. If you speak about the border, the Sesheke border, the Chirundu border, the Nakonde borders, all the roads where these trucks are driving towards and exiting Zambia is dilapidated. Currently, the CDF in Zambia is burdened. They have got serious burden. So the 5,000 proposal by Joseph Kalimbwe in terms of making those trucks pay back to the community of Zambia, that $5,000 will ease the burden of the CDF of Zambia. And if you do a basic math, basic arithmetic to say, what value are these truckloads going to lose, or these miners are going to lose if they pay 5,000 US dollars? If you do in terms of percentages, which is about 5,000 US dollars over 500,000, is that not worth about 1.2% value of the cargo that they'll be paying to the Zambian Revenue Authority? So currently, the Zambian Revenue Authority is losing millions, if not billions, of dollars, primarily because the leaders in Zambia are not woke. They are sitting on a mine, couldn't operate a mine, sold mines for $25 million. Those who bought those mines, because decision making, they made a good decision, good investment. They made profits. We're talking about profits, 75 million within 3 months. And the government gets nothing. They're only getting royalties. They're getting 0.006%, value of 400,000. Currently, as it stands, with the price of copper shooting up to 13,000 US dollars per ton, those trucks are worth 500,000. That $5,000 that is a proposal for Zambia is nothing, it's zero. They won't even feel it. Yet these people are heartless. They don't care. The roads are not fixed. They can't even afford to drive on those roads. That's why now they've gone and privately constructed and built their own private airspaces because they have too much money and they're getting this money from us as Africans. And we as Africans, we are quiet. The African story is sad, but to some extent we blame ourselves as Africans. We've elected leaders who are not good. The leaders that we've elected, they don't make decisions which are completely sold out to changing and transforming the people within their communities. We have spoken as Africans to say we have the African 2063 agenda aspirations. Are we doing anything to make sure that we attain those sustainable development goals? There's nothing in place to make sure that we arrive to that goal of having an Africa which is stable, an Africa which competes with the other continents. Currently, Africa is debt-ridden. Zambia, if you go back into 2020, was the first country to declare that we are not able to sustain our debt. And they started borrowing money left, right, and center. Yet they've got mines, copper mines, which are supposed to transform the lives of Zambians. The copper mines are supposed to transform people in Zambia. But unfortunately, Africa is led by dunderheads. These guys are only worried about the blue lights. And it's our very own people that we've elected into power. They've come with the election manifesto saying they will transform Africa and our communities. There will be service delivery, but zero, there's nothing. The only infrastructure that is left is the infrastructure which was left by the former colonial master. How sad is that? Let that sink. We have seen the same happening in Zimbabwe. Despite having had the world's biggest open cast diamond mine, you scrap, you get diamonds in Zimbabwe. Where are those diamonds? The Chinese took them. Did they benefit the people in Zimbabwe? Zero. The copper in Zambia, is it benefiting the people in Zambia? Zero. When are we going to learn as Africans? When are we going to make sure that the mineral resources that we have benefit us as Africans? Because we keep on, day in, day out, doing things which are not good. We make bad decisions. And such decisions only benefit the former colonial master. The very same tragedy is happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Create man-made chaos, siphon out mineral resources. In one way or the other, by hook or crook, the former colonial masters are still siphoning out the mineral resources. After the scramble of Africa, after the Berlin Conference, after the Congo Conference, Africa was colonized. It was all about the mineral resources that we have in Africa. That is why Africa is where it is. They love Africa because of the mineral resources. But what are we doing as Africans? What are you doing as an African to protect the mineral resources that you have, the raw materials that you have? as Africans. We export raw materials and we import the finished product, which then costs an arm and a leg and a head and another limb. It is not benefiting us as Africans. We need to keep on having these conversations so that we can protect that which Africa has, that which the former colonial masters are taking from Africa. It is high time we protect Africa. It is high time we protect that which belongs to us. It's high time we join hands and unite as Africa. The dream was ideal. The dream was good. We formed the Organization of African Unity in 1963. The ideal realization at that time was to make sure that we fight for freedom, that we win back and we take over our countries from the former colonial masters. Now that real dream came to a reality when the last born of Africa was born, which is South Africa in 1994. That was then we formed the African Union. There was a serious transformation from the OAU to the African Union, because the African Union then said, now that we have attained power, now that we have taken over our own countries as Africans, now that administratively we are in power, let us now fight for the economic freedom of Africa. But from the formation of the African Union, we saw what happened immediately. Muammar Gaddafi was eliminated. Colonel Muammar Gaddafi from Libya, he spoke about moving away from the US dollar, de-dollarization. Let us use gold as Africa. Let us close our borders to the former colonial masters and only trade amongst ourselves. Mind you, the intra-continental trade for Africa is less than 16% as it stands, and other continents, their intra-trade is sitting at about 65, 70%, 80%. We don't trade amongst ourselves. We are the biggest importers of produce, of whatever we have in Africa. We go and export it elsewhere. We don't trust our neighbors. The textile industry in Lesotho is going down because of the US tariffs. But the products that are being produced from the textile industry in Lesotho, they're not being procured by the African nations. What do we do as Africa? We are busy importing things from China. We are busy buying things from the USA. Yet Lesotho, right here in Africa, they have the biggest textile industry. In Benin, we have cotton. Is that cotton benefiting us? No. It's not. We prefer to sell it cheaper and procure expensive finished products. We as Africans are producing at least more than 75% of the world's cocoa. Cocoa is the product which is used for the production of chocolate. We have the raw materials here, but the farmers in the Eastern Africa, they're getting less than 50 cents in terms of profit. They're getting zero, nothing in terms of profit. We export the raw materials, we come back here, we buy the finished product. Hey, Swiss chocolate is nice. That raw material is coming from Africa. And we should be producing the final product, and then we export the final product. But we are not doing that as Africa. Cry, my beloved Africa. Till when should Africa be relegated to the level of Stone Age scavengers? We are therefore available for manipulation and abuse by the former colonial masters or the current colonial masters, because they're still here anyway. When we formed the African Union, we said we now want to have economic freedoms. Have we had those economic freedoms? There's enough literature in terms of policy, in terms of the roadmap, but is there any president who is implementing it? No. Who is going to hold you accountable as Zimbabwe, as Madagascar, to achieve the sustainable goals that we have, the SDGs? No one can hold you accountable. That's why the idea of the Pan-African Parliament, it makes no sense without real power. That's why the idea of SADC makes no sense without real power. Powers to influence better governance, The leaders in SADC and the African Union and in Pan-African Parliament, they sit, drink tea, fight for positions, and then what? Write beautiful paragraphs, beautiful, amazing presentations. But is that filtering back into their countries? No. We are sitting here with the issue of Zambia. Raw materials being siphoned out. Is anyone speaking about it? Nope. Who is benefiting from this? First Quantum Mines, First Quantum Minerals, Barrick Lumwana, Glencore Mopani, Konkala Vendita, Vedanta. Where are the origins of these miners, these mining companies? Are they plowing back the proceeds in Africa? Nope. First Quantum Minerals, that's Canada. Barrick Lumwana, Canada. Glencore Mopani, Swiss-based. Vedanta, Konkala, London/India. Indian-based. The government of Zambia, where is it in terms of production? That's way, way down the pack. As a result, we are not benefiting anything. Every truckload leaving Zambia carrying 500,000, 500,000 worth of goods. Those goods are not benefiting Zambia. We have only asked about the crumbs. The campaign by Joseph Kalimbo is only focusing on the crumbs, which is 1.2% of the value of the truck. They are not interested. The government of the day is not interested. Cry